Greetings, YouTube. I wrestled with uh, whether I was going to do this um, on Facebook or not. But I went ahead and decided to upload this to YouTube. One of the reasons why I wanted to go ahead and upload this to YouTube is, to be honest, it's something I want. Whatever you upload, you want it to be appreciated. And um, I'm not saying Facebook wouldn't appreciate the information, but I tend to think that people that are on the YouTube platform, maybe from Facebook, um, they pretty much know the kind of information that I tend to put out by the grace of God, and they will, you know, likely give it a listen, are likely at a place where they can understand what I'm saying, and can appreciate it. Everybody on my Facebook page, there's some people on my Facebook page, and I'm not saying this to be disparaging to anybody, but there's people on my Facebook page. It took them a while to get, some of the things that I presented, because some of the topics that I talk about, I'm not boasting, but some of them are heavy topics. They just are. I mean, and I'm not going to pretend like they aren't. They are. Um, and so, considering some things that are going on right now, I wanted to talk about the subject of controlled opposition. Controlled opposition. Um, I wanted to talk about this because this is a word that gets thrown around a lot, especially what you had back a few years ago. I had an interview recently. It was really more of a thing where we all got together and kind of chopped it up a little bit with Brother Berean. Shout out to Brother Berean, where we talked about the concept of conspiracy. Um, and as he pointed out in the interview or the program, um, a lot of what we see now going on, or what has went on in the history of the communities that deal with these kind of things, took on a kind of a new level when 9/11 happened. After 9/11 happened, it wasn't too long after that you started to have something that popped up called 9/11 Truth, and you begin to have the Truth movement. Now, really, uh, people that know about the Truth movement, if all they know about is the Truth movement, then I'm not saying this to be funny. I'm not saying it to be arrogant. Then they really need to catch up, because the Truth movement was not the start. Um, the Truth movement is what used to be called the Patriot community, etc. Uh, it was kind of like, um, I want to say, an updated version of that, an extension of that, a continue. That's the better word, a continuation of it. Um, People had been around for a while talking about different things that were talked about in the truth community, but it's like things exploded and more people woke up during 9/11 truth than had previously woke up. It was kind of like, I remember hearing about, I think about what I hear. Let me say about this. I don't remember like that, but I'm saying I'm aware of the 1970s and how people, there was a kind of a wake up thing that happened in the 70s, where people, there was a popular book in the 70s called None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen, where people began to question these elite institutions and everything. And even when they tried to kind of do a bait and switch, and David Rockefeller and Zbigniew Brzezinski created the Trilateral Commission, people began to blow the lid on the Trilateral Commission. Um, it just went through a period. And how awake was it? Well, it's kind of like how awake was it? It was kind of like this. By the time I believe it was the '80s, you know, when George Bush, there was like a video of George Bush and being questioned, if I remember correctly, about being down with the Trilateral Commission or something like that. People were just more aware uh, during those times, and so if I were to describe the truth movement, it's like things came all the way back around, and people began to question things again. And then you had people being introduced to information that previously, had just kind of been underground stuff, and it's not that, again, it's not that there weren't people that were aware. It just became more prevalent, so to speak. Documentaries were coming out. Some look back on 9/11 truth, especially around a specific time where people were calling it the golden age of the internet, because the internet is nothing like it was back during those times. Now, the things are getting censored. I mean, you put stuff up back then, it could be the most devastating anti-establishment documentary of the decade. And back then, it got airplay, it got shared, it got over 1 million views. It was shared on Facebook, different things like that. I'm talking about once Facebook really became a thing. Um, and so, but once 9/11 truth and everything got started, you had people outspread, sharing different things and everything, and then people began to wake up, etc. I woke up. I began to wake up around 2000. So by the time September 11th, I was in that number already questioning 9/11, because I had woke up like in 2000. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know, of course, in 2000 what I knew by 2000. I don't know, 8ish or 9ish, but I began to wake up during that time period, basically. And um, and so uh, what begins to happen? Once people really, there are levels to it, if you will. Once people begin to really wake up, um, there are different levels to this that they begin to experience. Once people really, really, really begin to delve deep and really begin to, learn information. Um, Now, the bad part, which is what this was, which is why I made this video. The bad part is delving deep can go a couple of ways. It can go into them actually taking time to learn, or delving deep in terms of just watching a whole bunch of stuff and getting into heavier information through watching. And the bad thing about that is those type of people, and I want you to hear me, those type of people are the type of people that tend to try to feel their way through things. And what ends up happening is they end up being, I wish I really could take time, but they really end up being more problems than they do being help, because these are the type of people that end up demonizing people. These are the type of people that end up that should not be demonized. These are the type of people that get on the internet and spread all kind of stuff, just wild stuff that just isn't true. I mean, just because they watch 5 documentaries and they understand 15 occult symbols, they feel like they're ready to talk about a lot of this. And they just end up doing more harm than good. They end up making, the rest of us look like a bunch of nutcases. And I don't think, it's like some of them, they just don't realize it. And we're living in a time now where you can't tell them. They just won't, they're just not trying to hear you. Because after all, they have YouTube, and well, it used to be YouTube. But they have all these other things, and all they have to do is go and watch the next documentary, and they'll be up on game. They think that, which is ridiculous, which is ridiculous. Um, but anyway, it used to be that people would. Um, well, let me say it like this. What happens is people begin to learn different information, and then you begin to learn something very, very interesting the more you begin to learn. What you begin to learn is, because when you first come in to understanding things, first you learn, okay, this is immense evil. Immense evil is going on in the system. I did not think the system was this evil, but the system, lo and behold, is this evil. Corporate, dominance, corporate manipulation, international banking dynasties, and all these other kind of things. The income tax and the Federal Reserve and the United Nations, the Council on Foreign Relations, Skull and Bones, the Milner Group, and all. You just end up to learn all of these things. The Pilgrim Society, you begin to, the Illuminati, and all these things. You begin to learn all these things, and you begin to say, like, okay, this is bad. But we have these people over here, and they're bringing the truth to people, and they're trying to let them know what's really going on. Then you run into this term. You run into this term, which is a good term for you to know, but I'm convinced that it's also a term that if people are not aware, they can be deceived by. Let me give you an example. In theory, it's good for people to know about the term conspiracy theory, because there really are some conspiracy theorists out here. There really are people that are saying things that cannot be substantiated, etc., etc., etc. But it's also good for you to know the whole gist and the whole context behind how the term has been weaponized, and it's been used for one single purpose since its weaponization, and that is to discredit anybody that's talking and trying to bring light to things, the truth of things that are outside of the mainstream consensus, so to speak, for lack of a better way of saying it. And so people have to know when the term is being used to manipulate them, which these days, most of the time, it is being used to manipulate. It is absolutely being used to manipulate you. Okay, and so there is also this term, you know, that this video is about. There's this term, controlled opposition. Okay, controlled opposition is real. There really is a such thing as controlled opposition. And once you get to the point where you begin to learn about these terms, oh my, I mean, things begin to really take a different shape. You begin to say, okay, I've been listening to this person, and this person, but who's really legit? Like, are they really, I think they're telling me the truth, but are they really telling me the truth? Are they really presenting the kind of information? How are they presenting it? He look a little bit too, he goes in a little bit too much. Is he really presenting all the information that I need to know? This person over here's talking about this, and this looks a little strange. It seems cool until he gets to this part, and this is a little strange. So this looked like this could be controlled opposition. Here's the interesting thing about that. If you're the kind of person who came in seeking to educate yourself, then you will use educated means, for lack of a better way of saying it. And of course, and if you're above all, you should be praying, but you will use educated, solid reasoning means to determine whether this person is controlled opposition. If they're controlled opposition, you'll be able to point out and to point to solid information that will show you that this person is controlled opposition. You'll be able to point out lies that you've caught them in or something like that. It won't be because you turned on YouTube or turned on something and you just felt somehow, for some reason, he smiles too much, so he must be controlled opposition. He gets too excited and goes in too much when he talks about these subjects, so he must be controlled opposition. He doesn't talk about this subject, so he must be controlled opposition. Sometimes that's true. But sometimes people don't talk about certain subjects because it's just not their area. When Aaron Russo did what he did on the Federal Reserve and the IRS, the late Aaron Russo, he wasn't talking about the Illuminati and some of these other things. He was talking about the Federal Reserve because that's what was used. That seemed to be the area that woke him up, so to speak. He had other areas that he didn't know. And if you listen to all of his interviews, he'll say, there's certain things that he just did. One interview in particular, there's certain things he just was not aware of. And he didn't speak on things that he was not aware of based off of my understanding of the late Aaron Russo. So, sometimes when people aren't speaking on things, that doesn't mean that they're controlled opposition. Sometimes they may be. But sometimes it just may mean that they just didn't know. And I'm frightened. Not frightened. I'm troubled by these people that are quick to jump and make someone controlled opposition. I'm troubled by those type of people. I'm troubled. At the end of the interview, he winked at somebody, so he's controlled opposition. You know what I'm saying? As he talked, he motioned this way, so he must be controlled opposition. Do you not know people talking with their hands sometimes can make certain gestures, and that is not enough for you to make them controlled opposition? That's actually ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous. You might get mad at me, but that's ridiculous. That's not enough. Am I gonna? I wouldn't be bothered if you said it made you question them and it made you look. Okay, it made you look, but jumping all the way into them being controlled opposition just from a hand sign, that some hand signs are just in the general public. It's just not enough if you see someone talking a certain way. Some people talk with I talk with my hands. Some of y'all, y'all see me on here. If you ever see me preach or something, I talk with my hands. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's not enough for you to say someone is controlled opposition. That's just ridiculous. It's not even righteous for you to do something like that. So the reason I'm saying that, because I'm talking to Christians. I'm talking mostly to Christians. I'm saying mostly because sometimes people will listen to me and they may not be a Christian. But I'm talking to Christians. I'm a minister. I'm talking to Christians. Okay? And so, but that's not enough for you to make someone controlled opposition. I'm saying that because, today, I think it was in the last few days, someone that's been of concern to people, has been Nicki Minaj. And what happens is, I've been involved with this information for a while, and I can just, certain things, you can kind of tell where people are in a sense. And the first thing people want to say when Nicki Minaj says what she says about the jabby jab, she came out and spoke against the jabby jab, or spoke her piece on the jabby jab. And first thing people want to say are controlled opposition, controlled opposition, controlled opposition. Nicki Minaj may not even know what that is. And so, I'm gonna tell you where some of y'all are messed up. Some of y'all are messed up is some of you think that these. I'm about to get in trouble. I'm about to get in trouble because now I'm about to go down a road that people don't want to deal with. Some of you all think that these musical artists are like in the Illuminati, and it's because of this his kind of almost this hysteria that went on about 10, 20 years ago. I know it was about 8 to 10 years ago, where everybody was talking about the Illuminati, and you had people like Professor Griff talking, and different ones like that. And although Professor Griff made it clear that no rapper is directly in the Illuminati. Now, before you turn me off and say controlled opposition, I need you to listen to what I'm saying. I'm not saying they're not in the network, which means that they're not in a secret society or something like that. But they're not amongst the elite families running the world. So that means if Nicki Minaj is in some sort of secret society, or she is in some sort of form of occultism, which, considering some things, she might be, or she might just be a new ager or something like that. She might be. But is she far enough in the pyramid where she knows the ins and outs of what's going on in world affairs and stuff like that? No. I seriously doubt it. Let me tell you what role most musicians play. I'm going to tell you, when it comes to the music industry, the people you need to watch is the ones that are not on TV. It's the corporate executives and stuff like that. The ones robbing, you know what I'm saying, these musicians, the ones robbing them blind. Okay? Them are the ones really with the power. These people get on stage and they are used basically like Rome used, the stadiums and stuff back in the day. They are part of the bread and circus. They are there to distract us. They are there to be used as vehicles to shape attitudes and to begin trends and things like that. That's why they're there. They're not, many of them are not going to Bilderberg group meetings and Davos group meetings and stuff like that, to my knowledge. There's been one actor is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, Angelina Jolie. But there may be a few others. But the movers and shakers are not the people like Jay-Z and stuff like that. Now, Jay-Z and Beyonce, I'll say this much. They do have power, but they're not powerful. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm saying all this to say, that, she said what she said, and Nicki Minaj may have meant what she said. She may have absolutely meant what she said. You know what I'm saying? She may have absolutely been just speaking what was on her mind. And it's not impossible for that to happen. That's not impossible, yeah. It's not impossible. It's not. It's not impossible. And I'm going to tell you something else. This is another reason why I want to talk about this. Because some of you that are going to watch this, I pray the right people. There are people that I know need to hear this. Some of you need to think about this. Some of you are so obsessed with controlled opposition that you haven't even been able to learn what you need to learn. Have you thought about that? I mean, what have you had the time to really learn because you're obsessing over before you can even take time to learn? Because guess what? In order to know certain things, you have to learn, which means you have to listen to somebody. But who are you going to listen to when everybody's controlled opposition? I'm not saying not to be concerned about controlled opposition. I'm saying you can be so obsessed with controlled opposition that you obsess over controlled opposition, and rather than learning rather than understanding the things you need to understand. Which is why I do tend to believe that some of this talk of controlled opposition is weaponized and it's coming from the other side. I really do believe that. I believe it's weaponized, and some of these people that y'all are listening to that's obsessing controlled opposition, controlled opposition, controlled opposition, controlled opposition. Some of them are controlled opposition. Some of them are controlled opposition because they are pushing you to live in such a way. They're pushing you to live in such a way where you're paranoid. You're absolutely paranoid, and you're not able to really take time to really learn. And you can't take time to learn because you're so obsessed over this concept. You know, have you ever, again, I've been, these are things, let me say it like this. Have you ever tried to share something with somebody and you knew the information was solid? This is how you know these people are messed up. And they're just, they they are being compromised and they don't even know it. They are being compromised. You're sharing information. You know the information is solid. You know it's solid because you basically have done some work on it as far as looking into it. And they will shut it out just because they heard, not because they did their own research, because they heard this person was controlled opposition. They're controlled opposition. And you know what I usually do when people, especially on Facebook, when people come at me like that, I'll say they may be controlled opposition, but is this true? Is what it's saying true? It's just, So again, I just thought I would share this. People's ability to learn, people's ability to grow in the things that they need to understand. They don't realize that these people that are feeding them this stuff is compromising that because they could be in a better place. One of the things you learn when you begin to learn a lot of this, you begin to learn that on a certain level, I didn't say at the top level. That's another thing we got to get away from. We got to start listening to each other. Not listening at, but listening to each other. At a certain level, this is an information war. I would say the information war is rooted ultimately in a spiritual war, but it is an information war. That is facts. Oh, you got that from Alex Jones. Well, Alex Jones got that right to a degree. He got that right. This is on a certain level. It's an information war. And so, guess what? If you're someone that's spreading information and trying to wake people up and everything like that, there comes a point within your dialogue, in your talking to them, where you're gonna enter into a dialogue. And everybody isn't simple. And I don't mean this to be rude. I don't mean it to be rude, to be anything like arrogant or nothing like that. Everybody's not simple. Some people, it's not that they can't be, you can't convince them. It's just they need more convincing than other people. And if all you have under your belt are YouTube videos, you're not going to be able to talk to some of these people because you're not going to make sense. I've seen these type of people. You're not going to make sense. But if you can talk to them, if you can point them to things, you can point them to documents, you have certain information together and everything, then you can talk to people. There are people on Facebook that I interact with that disagree with me vehemently when it comes to certain things. But one thing I can say about them, one thing I can say about them, one thing I can say, they respect me. They respect me. And one reason I know that many of them do is because I'm not out here just sharing crazy things. I'm not out here, uh, you know, sharing things that are unsubstantiated. I'm trying to be clear to give a fuller picture, excuse me. I try to be clear on the things and the wording and everything that I say. And I don't, people that do try to come at me with YouTube and all this other kind of stuff, I try to make it clear that, hey, I'm coming to you and I can present documentation, not just a YouTube video. you know. So some people listen to this and they'll get angry and they'll get upset and they won't better themselves as a person. That's the sad part. I'm not saying anything that's going to hurt you. I'm saying something to help you, to better you in your communicating with people and everything like that. That you say that you want to wake up. And let me tell you something. Some of the people in your life ain't waking up because sometimes some of y'all are coming off crazy. I know you don't want to hear that. I know you don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear it. But some of y'all are coming off crazy. You say things, and if people question you, you send them YouTube videos, and if you don't send them the YouTube videos, you send them to websites that are very questionable. And I realize questionable can be subjective, but come on, some of these websites are questionable, y'all. And believe me, I go mostly when you're awake. You do this. I go mostly to alternative sites, but they're solid ones. See, there are solid alternative sites, and then there are wacky ones. You see what I'm saying? But I know that I'm going to be interacting with everyday people on Facebook. Some, I think there's some people in the truth movement to call them normies. I feel like that's an insult. And even if y'all hear me say that, forgive me if you think that I'm saying it towards you, but that is what some people call people that may not know or whatever. But my point is, you're dealing with everyday people, okay? Everyday people. So I know how to still go to CNN. If you go to my page sometimes, you're going to see stuff from CNN, from Atlantic, from, USA Today, Reuters, because I know how to use those to make a point. But when it comes to Julius's primary information, no, he doesn't go to those. Not his primary information. At least when we're talking about, world affairs and things like that. So, knowing these things is one thing. Getting out here amongst everyday people and sharing it, that takes not only knowing, but that takes the ability to strategize. Are you being strategic? Or are you just out here just throwing all kind of sometimes unsubstantiated theories and everything out here? And then the moment someone disagrees with you, they must be an agent or they must be controlled opposition. Sometimes they're just challenging you. Some people have ran into me on social media, and I've came to them. And I came to them and it came off like I was being hard on them. And I was just challenging them because I was trying to show them something. I was trying to show them how to go about what they were doing in a better way. And there were times I got blocked. And some of those people are probably still going around doing the same things that they were doing. I pray not. Forgive me for saying that because people can change. So y'all, I'm serious, y'all. Forgive me for saying that. But we have to be, wise in everything in what we do. So, in any event, I just thought I would share this with you. And yes, 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 yes. Controlled opposition does exist. It does exist. But we cannot either, we can't make everybody controlled opposition, and we cannot be so obsessed with controlled opposition that we don't take the time, that we're obsessing over that and we don't learn. You know what I'm saying? We don't take the time to even learn. You know, one of the best things I can say, and I'm gonna leave you with this. You know, it's good to know that controlled opposition exists, but it's better to know solid ways of dealing with it. People that know solid ways of dealing with it can still work with people, work with information rather, not people, but with information that comes from that source, and can literally say, hey, I don't do them. I feel like they're controlled opposition, but what they're saying here is right. It's like me sharing something from CNN or something like that. I know CNN is horrible, but I can still use CNN, to make a point or to get a point over. Because, you know, here's the one thing about, I hate to use the term, here's the one thing about fake news. In order for them to appear credible, sometimes they do have to share things that has either a mote of truth in it, for lack of a better term, or sometimes they just have to literally tell the truth. Because if it was just all lies, it wouldn't, people wouldn't just buy into something that's completely 100% all lies. It has to have an air of credibility to it. And so when you get over here to alternative, they have to have even more of an air of credibility, to where you have to really see certain things that help you to know that they're controlled opposition. So I pray everybody got something out of this. It's kind of late at night. This is something that was just on my mind and it's been real. This is something that's really been in and out of not in and out, but just kind of permeating my mind for a while, because it's a subject matter that's people need to know about controlled opposition. But then it's a subject matter that people just get in their minds and they just go way out here. So after a while, here's what you really need to be aware of. You need to be aware of having that mindset and then finding yourself only listening to one source. And this one source is the root. If this one source is the root of you believing that this person is controlled opposition, that person is controlled opposition, that person, you might need to watch them. Because now all you're listening to is one person. That's almost like cultish. I mean, think about it. That's almost cultish. And it's like, there's no truth outside of this movement. Do some of y'all do some of y'all know? Do some of y'all know the kind of people y'all giving ear to? You need to think about it. You need to think about it. You need to think about it. So, it's real out here. You got to be cautious. You can't listen to any and everything. You can't buy into everything. You got to use discernment. But discernment is key. Discernment is one thing. Discernment is one thing. But paranoia is something else. And we need to be discerning. We don't need to be paranoid. We don't need to be paranoid. And so Blessings, grace, and peace to everybody.